Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1974's Night of Fear. This is 1974's Night of Fear. This actually comes on a double bill from Code Red. Let me get that right there. With Inn of the Damned and Night of Fear. Both directed by Terry Rourke, I believe. Terry Bork, I'm sorry. Both directed by Terry Bork. And this is from 1974. This is written and directed by Terry Bork. Hunted and trapped, her nightmare is just beginning. Here it is. Night of Fear is what we're looking at, and you can it's actually even a little bit dark when you look at it regularly, but there it is. This is a 54-minute movie. Okay, it's a 54-minute film, and it was originally intended as a TV pilot to the pilot episode of a horror anthology TV series called Fright. Now, this particular episode was supposedly banned in its native Australia for being too violent, as it says in the back of this disc. This is put out by Code Red Releasing, and let's get into Night of Fear, a 54-minute nightmare. Here it is, folks. Night of Fear. Now, it says 1974 in the back and 1972 on IMDb, so somewhere around those lines right there. Night of Fear is a very, very unique horror experience. In many regards, you almost could sense somebody taking your ticket for a horror ride, a dark ride, or a walk through haunted house, because essentially it is a 54-minute nightmare. Horrorscape, and really an oppressively psychotic and moving piece. And the moving that I'm talking about is really in the style, cinematography, music, and editing, and in the characters. Now, there's a lot of things going on here, and it is telling its story not through words, because there are no words at all. There's no dialogue at all. It is all telling its story non-verbally, through screams and violence and visions and nightmares and feelings and chaos and images. So this is a 54-minute movie with no dialogue that's telling its story in a different manner, truly in a nightmarish, surreal manner, yet straightforward at the same time. But we have some very interesting paradoxes going in here with straightforward and surreal. So let's get into Night of Fear by Terry Bork. This is a film I never even heard of before, never even heard of the Australian TV series Fright. If I have anybody watching this from Australia, let me know some more things about it. I don't know if it's been released on DVD, the total series, or anything like that. But one thing is for sure, this was quite an experience. When we look at the music first, we have a film with no dialogue, so of course we're going to have a heavy basis of music. And the music in this film is very oppressive, at times atonal, at times it has a groove and a rhythm. But it is scary, it is dark and terrifying and tense and complex at the same time. There's complexity to the music. The music is utilizing real instruments and synthesizers, and it is very multi-layered and very interesting and complex, as I stated. This is not a simplistic score whatsoever. And it's quite dark, and it complements what's happening because the music, in many regards, tied to just the imagery, is the story, is the dialogue for this nonverbal film. We have a man living in the woods, and this is a man who lives in evil darkness, mentally, physically. And there are women that get caught into his grasp in the woods, near his living spaces. And this man has friends, and this man has enemies. in the natural world of the forest. And it is within that scape that comes in violence and perversion. The style for this film is style. If the music is the dialogue, so is the imagery and the style and the way that the movie was made. This is a very, very unique experience that I don't know if a lot of people will be able to handle or appreciate, because it's not done in a typical manner whatsoever. Even if this was the pilot for a horror anthology TV series, I can't imagine this thing going over so well. I mean, no dialogue. Okay, so in many regards, we have a very interesting thing going on here. We have brutal horror, nightmarish, surreal, and we also have an element of the art house. Now, the style, the editing is so interesting. Sometimes it's strobes, sometimes it follows its own timescape, its own time pattern, where we will be skipping ahead rather rapidly through cuts from scene to scene, but that within that scene cut could actually be a couple of hours. And so it is very abrasive to the viewer. And also, the editing will tell you things, but it will tell you things in very complex fashions, not easy fashions, in very surreal manners. You will use your eyes and you will look around and you will try to make sense of your surroundings, as the victims in this film also do so. But your surroundings as the viewer is the film itself, whereas the victims, it is the woods, it is the cabin. For us, it is this film. And we are trying to allow the story to unravel before our ears and our eyes and our feelings, as the dialogue is taking on a very anti-cinematic realm to what you are typically used to. Now, we have wild camera angles in this film, from every angle possible, from the ceiling, from the ground. We have wonderful shots of from the ground up, possibly wide-angle lenses, not exactly sure, but I will tell you that the camera angles are bringing the viewer chaos. The camera angles and the editing are bringing the terror and the horror. In a lot of regards, this is almost like a 54-minute dinner table sequence from Tobe Hooper's original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When you look at that original Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner sequence, with the zooms on the eyes and the sounds and it's just oppressively chaotic for a few minutes there. This is a film that really has that style. Most definitely has that style. Now, we have some very disturbing violence in this film, especially if it was going to be a TV show. I mean, we're not talking gore here, but damn close to it. And we're talking menacing violence, though, at the same time, towards animals and towards women. Very, very interesting. And throughout the film, we are really, for the most part, in the world of the victim and in the world of the murderer. We also have a few bizarre interludes in here involving one of the girls before she actually meets her fate and how she gets there, but it involves tennis and sex. In terms of the sexuality of this piece, we do have a picture of a breast, pictures of butts, and a sex scene of simulated sex, seemingly, that doesn't really show anything, but you can tell they're kind of naked. Now, there is a perverse sexuality running through this film in regards to the violence, in regards to the victims and to the murderer. This is a very unique murderer. I mean, how many times have you watched a horror film? Oh, the killer's in the woods, and he lives in a cabin. Okay, how many times have you heard of that and you think to yourself, my gosh, again, but you might love it, so you might want to watch it again. But I will tell you right now, Night of Fear by Terry Bork does it differently. There are different elements to this story that even in some regards reminded me of the film Willard and some other things. It's very bizarre. Animals play a very big role in this film, dead and alive, and female sexuality also plays a role. But since we do not have dialogue, we are left in a mute world of victim and killer. And that is a very, very satisfyingly scary experience. This is a very unique 54 minutes, okay? If you haven't already been able to tell. And there are some very terrifying sequences in this film. And in many regards, it's a 54-minute sequence that is very tense and menacing and bizarre. This is weird. This is bizarre. And it is done in fear. Never really quite seen anything like this, especially as one piece. You have seen horror films that have maybe a few moments like this 54-minute film, but not a whole world. And this is a whole world. This is disturbing. It's weird. It's dark, scary, and oppressive. This is Night of Fear by Terry Borch, 1974, 1972. This is intelligently, surreally, artistically, bizarrely disturbing and scary. Night of Fear. Look at that, the imagery right there. Great acting in here as well. Very interesting production design and production sequences that are original, unique, and confusing to your timid mind. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like Night of Fear, put out by Code Red Releasing. It's a double bill with Inn of the Damned, which I might be looking at sometime in the future on this YouTube page. Please feel free to check out all my other reviews in this YouTube page. Sexploitation, adult, exploitation, horror, underground, weird, bizarre, surreal, whatever I want to talk about, pretty much. But it's going to be crazy, probably. But whatever I want to talk about that I feel like it needs to be talked about more, please feel free to check out my own personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thank you so much, and good night.